Patreon's like an OnlyFans, right? My friend does Patreon.
No, it's like a Kickstarter on a monthly basis is closer to what it is. So people like donate, and they get perks in exchange for their donation.
I hear you talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah, so a lot of podcasts use it, but they also like they don't allow they don't allow porn. Like this is fine. We can talk about stuff.
Okay.
But I can't have any. And I also promote my art book through it because that's like artistic nudes.
Yeah.
But any porn.
Oh, my friend sells porn on it.
Yeah. You can't.
Or nude photos.
That's different.
Oh, okay.
Nude photos is fine, but anything because I actually got busted through my Patreon because what I would do is I would have guests on, and then one of the perks was I would send you like a gallery from my website if I had shot them.
Yeah.
And it was single girl, but it didn't matter. And the pictures weren't even hosted on Patreon. They were on Dropbox, and I would send you the link.
And they still caught you.
But they went and they looked, and because it had spreads in it, that to them is
yeah.
And so they shut that down. They didn't shut me down, but they were like, you have to remove this. You can't offer this anymore. So I was like, okay. So I had to take that perk away. So but like otherwise they're like we can talk about whatever.
Okay.
And it says adult, but there was a lot of people that were doing porn through there, and like there was one especially I think it was the Crash Pad series. It was like like feminine porn, and they were making like $45,000 a month or something.
Dang.
And yeah, so because it was like kind of a new rule that they came around with.
Okay.
Like shut a lot of people down. It's like super fast.
Yeah, my friend's she's not in porn, so she just like has nude. That's where she posts. Because she has a big Instagram following, so she's like, if you want to see the naked stuff, sign up for my Patreon.
Totally. Yeah, you can do that. You can do nudes as long as it's like tasteful.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do porn. So you just have to be careful. Okay, sorry, we'll be ready to go. And you need to leave at 4, right?
I mean, I can probably be a couple minutes late to my appointment, but they close at 5.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's because I just found out my breast implants are recalled.
Yeah, I saw that.
So now I'm going to my plastic surgeon to kind of figure out what the fuck do I do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that gives us like an hour.
Okay, good.
Perfect. So we just have to do one like break for a commercial.
Mm-hmm.
But that break is also like can be like, okay, we're gonna take a break. Okay, we're back on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you can add it.
Say it so that we can insert it when I post the final thing. Okay, I think we're good.
I love that I hit you up for this like a year ago, it feels like.
I know, right?
Because I always listen to your podcast because I have to drive to and from San Diego and back down here,
Oh, really?
So I'm like, I want to listen to podcasts, but I like stuff I can relate to. So I'm like, I always listen to yours.
Oh, yay. It's so great to hear. It's so funny because I always, I don't know, I'm always like surprised that people, I don't know why. I'm still to this day surprised that people listen to the
No, I love it. It's my favorite.
Thank you. I don't know. It's just funny to me. Even though we just hit 1 million downloads this week, I still feel like nobody listens to this show.
Right.
Like, we're speaking into the ether.
Right. That's crazy. It's awesome it's doing so well.
Yeah, I know. I'm like so surprised. I mean, Ernie will tell you, like, when we started, I was just like, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm just going to like do like 10 episodes and like see how it goes. Like, I really didn't think it would do well. And
how many have you done?
This is 103.
Yeah.
We just had, like literally July was like all these milestones. My 100th episode, 2-year anniversary, and then 1 million downloads. Like all happened in the last like 3 weeks. It's crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's like you can turn the gear. There you go.
I was like, something doesn't feel right.
Okay, so can we take that box actually off of the desk just because it's not pretty? And then can we, how does that look?
Can you push it a little bit towards like
Towards Karmen?
yeah, towards Karmen. A little more. All right, cool. Just a little more centered.
Okay, cool. You know, well, I like things centered. Oh wait, let's take a photo because I won't forget. I mean, I will forget. You know what I meant. Okay.
Okay.
Check them out.
Check 'em. Yeah, looks good. My arm. I'm just starting to look like my mother. Like my arms, I look like my mother.
Your arms.
My mother. Okay. Cool. All right, we're good. Okay. All right, I'm ready when you are.
Cool. Karmen, you in a mic check?
Okay, testing. Do you should I be talking into it more, or is this fine like this?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
I think a fist away from it is like.
Yeah.
I tend to do. I think I overdo it. I'm a little loud. I find that I need to I don't know. But yeah, don't be like anyway.
Yeah.
You know, just try to.
Sweet.
Good.
We're rolling.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today I have Karmen Karma on.
Hello.
Hello, and she is here because she did something that is a big deal, something that a lot of people talk about, something that I've been talking about doing for, I don't know, the last 20 years.
Really?
And haven't even gotten close to it. She wrote a motherfucking book.
Yes. It is crazy because I wrote it not knowing I was going to get a book deal. So I didn't get a book deal and then write it.
Yeah.
I just kind of wrote it with maybe it'll get published one day, but kind of in the back of my head, I was like, who's going to take a porn star seriously?
Yeah.
To give them a book. And I reached out to a company that I knew did another porn memoir,
Mm-hmm.
and they were interested. And then it's still even though I'm looking at my book right now on the table, it
It's
just
gotta be
doesn't
surreal.
it doesn't seem real.
Yeah, it's a big
crazy.
accomplishment.
Yeah, it took me 2 years to write it.
I was gonna ask you how long it took you to write it, because I mean it's a big undertaking. Not only just the time, but also I think just going back through your life and pulling. I mean, a lot of shit happened to you.
Yeah, there were certain chapters that were
Really hard to write.
It took me a while because I just didn't want to relive it, because when you're writing
Mhm.
about it, you have to close your eyes and envision everything to be able to get it across to the reader.
Right.
So I'm living through every detail again. So for
Mhm.
certain chapters, it was definitely difficult. When my husband would come home from work, he could tell me oh, were you writing about something today?
Yeah.
Because it was really affecting me. But at the end, it was just so therapeutic because I just got it all out on paper,
Mhm.
and it was a great feeling.
Yeah. So when did you decide, when did the idea of writing a book first occur to you?
I remember when I was in high school and I had an eating disorder,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember one day I want to write about this. I remember thinking that.
Mm.
And so I've always really been into English. That was the only class I did good at. And
Same.
Yeah, I love
I was an English
writing.
major.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I always, and then I just kind of got into drugs and alcohol when I did my eating disorder. I was recovered, and then my life was just kind of a shit show for years, where I was never in a place to care to write anymore, and my
Mhm.
life was spiraling. So who would want to read anything because there's no happy ending.
Yeah, it's you don't want to write a book until you feel like you've reached the end, which hopefully there'll be some kind of redemption, right?
Right. You don't want to just be oh, here's how I ruined
My
whole life.
My life is shitty and it continues to be shitty. The end.
Yeah, yeah. So then I left porn when I was 24,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to have a daughter with my husband, and
Mhm.
clearly that's the only way I could make sure it was his. It's if I get off birth control, it could be anyone. So
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. But I guess
Yeah.
that's true.
yeah, and I really wanted to have a baby, but you can't do both. 'Cause
Yeah.
it could be anybody's.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of time as I wasn't working, and I'm just pregnant. So that's when I started writing. So I was
Mm.
also had my pregnancy hormones as I'm writing very traumatic
Oh
things.
my
So
God.
I was just a train wreck for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I've also thought one day I'll write a book. But sometimes when I'm going through really hard things, I'll think to myself, this is just another chapter for my book. And it's a way of me thinking about I'm going to move past this and things are going to get better, and I'm going to look back on this life experience, and I'm going to it's going to be valuable to me in some way.
Exactly, and that's how I feel now looking back at it. But back then, I never thought oh, people are gonna be inspired by this one day.
Mhm.
But I definitely think you would have a really good book, because I know you like the stuff that you've been through by listening to your podcast, and I feel it'd be a really good story too.
Thanks.
You should do it when
Thank
you're not
you.
so
I will.
busy.
I know. One day. But let's talk about you. So, you started off, it sounded like you had kind of a difficult childhood. You had a good relationship with your father, but your mother wasn't really there for you.
Yeah, my mom, like, me and my sisters were just like terrified of her. So we always like, from as long as I can remember, we hated her. Like,
Hmm.
we were so scared of her. And like our dad was like, as soon as he come home from work, we would like stop hiding. Like, we would hide while my dad's at work. So we were so scared of her. And they finally got divorced when I was 6.
Hmm.
And like, it was, childhood got better at that point, but I feel like something in me was just kind of like off since then. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know if it was just like I couldn't trust my own mom, and she would like say she would kill me, and just really
Wow.
bad stuff. Yeah. And well, going through this book, I actually like went and got my court files from my parents' divorce so I could read it, and like I started finding out new things that I didn't remember in my head.
Oh,
So
wow.
it started like just like abuse, that physical abuse that I didn't remember. So it just kind of like brought up new wounds too.
Hmm.
And I feel like because I couldn't trust my own mom, that is why I acted out like my whole life and what I was
Hmm.
searching for. Now, like in hindsight, seeing like how my life and how I dealt with everything, I just I just totally acted out. But my dad was so loving, and I feel so bad because we would be always like, "Why couldn't you give us a good mom?" And he was like,
Yeah.
but he like fought so hard. He got the custody of me and my 2 sisters, so he was raising 3 girls by himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank God at least you had like one parent that
Right,
cared about you and took care of you.
right.
Yeah, and you do seem to mention in the book a few times that you probably, the lack of love and attention from your mom caused you to seek validation in other people. And do you think that that's kind of partially why you got into porn?
I think, I mean, for when I'm writing this, like in the second chapter about how it was just always sexual,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make sense to me. Like, that's why I just think like like some people are just really sexually made,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know if it's maybe something that is affected by me being traumatized by my mom. I don't know, but like
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing like a Playboy when I was super young
Mm-hmm.
and being like, I want to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just always being so sexual, like way before most kids are sexual.
Right, right.
So I don't know if it was an attention thing from people,
Or if you're
or
just
if I'm just sexual.
wired that way.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. I think it may be a combination of both.
I think it's kind of impossible to say because I think everybody is a result of nature and nurture combined, and I
Right.
think it's really difficult to tease the two out, like one
Mhm.
from the other. And from my experience, having interviewed a lot of people in this industry, I've had people on who grew up in loving homes where their parents were there for them, and they still were sexual from a young age, and then
Right.
people who come from broken homes. So I think it's hard to say. I think it's something that like a lot of people who are anti-porn like to latch onto
Yeah.
because they like to be like, oh, these reasons are why you became a porn star. But like I know accountants that
Right.
came from like broken homes. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like it's
Exactly.
prevalent everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I always I've always wanted to do porn. I was like trying to hold myself back from doing porn. Like when I started webcamming, then I was
Hmm.
like, okay, I need a strip. And I was trying not to. Like, I've always been sexual even if I didn't come join porn.
Hmm.
Like, I was sexual before then,
Right.
And it just, I was like, wait, I could make a career out of doing what I'm already doing
Right.
and make a lot of money doing it. Why would I not? It just seemed perfect for me.
Right. Right. And are you happy now that you made that decision? Do you still feel very much at home in the porn industry? Do you feel like it
Yeah.
was the right place for you?
Everything that happened, even like things that were like shitty at the times, I'm so happy for every little like the bad stuff I wrote about my book. I'm so happy because now I'm
Yeah.
so strong.
Right.
And now like I'm so happy in porn because such a strong woman that I'm not going to be doing things or getting taken advantage of, that or doing things I don't want to be doing now,
Hmm.
because I feel like I've just kind of came out like super strong. And the industry is a good place. There are
Hmm.
bad people, but
Of
it's
course.
you have to be a strong person and not put yourself in those positions. And I feel like although things weren't my fault, a lot of the times I just wasn't a strong enough person to like say no, like,
Yeah.
hey, knock it off.
Yeah.
But it's just
You
there's
kind of
bad
like,
people anywhere.
yeah, you kind of like allowed things. I mean,
It's so tricky.
it is tricky
Yeah.
because yeah, there's definitely things that aren't your fault, and then I know you and I share like stories of addiction,
Yes.
right? So and myself having gone through a 12-step program, one of the
things that I found really helpful was doing the 4 step and looking at like your role in everything,
Yeah.
and there are things that, happen to people that are definitely not their fault. So like I remember asking my sponsor, and I wasn't a victim of child abuse, but like asking my sponsor, like, well, what about something like child abuse? Like, how can you be like, oh, I'm going to look at my part in that? Because you're a child, it's not your fault.
Exactly.
And she was like, no, it's absolutely not your fault. Like, child abuse is clearly not the child's fault, but you're an adult now. And holding on to that and letting that influence the decisions that you make and letting that influence how you see the world and how you conduct yourself, that's your part.
Exactly.
Holding on to that and not like letting that go. So you need to let that go so that you can like be free.
Yeah, exactly. And that's totally how I felt like felt like a victim for so long, and I kind of was just like never thought I'd be happy,
Mm-hmm.
that I just was like, oh, my mom doesn't even love me. Fuck it. Like, I don't
Yeah.
love myself. And then, I eventually did get married and stuff. And it was actually 4th of July last year. I like wrote down all my resentments that I have towards my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote them down, and then I burned every single one of them. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, in like a morbid way, I kind of like, it was like her death to me, like,
Mm-hmm.
because she's never gonna be back in my life. So I just kind of let go of all these resentments to get it out, and just was like, all right, that's the end. Like, this is not gonna control me anymore.
Yeah.
Because even while I've been sober, still sometimes I'm just like, I get trapped in like, oh, I don't have a mom type, like my
Mm-hmm.
mom didn't love me thing. So like, it's hard not to feel like a victim. So now I just kind of see it as, okay, well, my mom was super shitty, and if she wasn't super shitty, I wouldn't be as inspired to be a good mom. So
Right.
now I use that, and I'm like, she'll
Yeah.
never feel that way. I'll never let her feel like I'm gonna hurt her. Or she'll
Yeah.
never be scared of me.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing, because now like my daughter's gonna get a good mother.
Yes. Yeah, it's really great that you can take that and look at that and turn it into a positive thing. And that's a thing too, I think, about like having dealt with trauma and resentments. And I know that we often want to tie things up in a neat little bow and have a happy ending, but even if you get to a point, I think, where you accept whatever your relationship is with your mother, like you're never going to always feel that way. You're always going to have those moments of feeling like sad and feeling like a
Yes.
victim, and just like accept that, and like you'll regress back to having those feelings, but you can always like move forward through them. You're never going to like
Yeah.
get to a point where you're like, okay, now I'm never going to feel that way. I'm never going to think about my mom again. Like,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah, it's hard, especially like when I see people with their moms, or like when I hear people talking about like, oh, I can't live without my mom, like lucky
yeah,
bitch, and like
yeah,
I get so like jealous. I always have since like elementary school, when I would see people with their moms, like it just hurt me so much, and I used to just like resent people for having good moms.
yeah.
But I have a good dad, and I just got to focus on the good parts, and now I'm a good mom to my baby. So
Right. So you obviously don't have a relationship with your mother anymore, because I know in the
no.
book, like you didn't, and then you actually moved to Florida and you moved in with her.
Yes.
And how was that? Because in the book, I didn't really see a part where like that confrontation with your mom again after. How was that like seeing her again after not being
So
after being separated?
she loves to act like nothing happened. So she
Okay.
plays like the whole like, I'm the party mom, I'm the cool mom, like
Right.
we just act like everything's fine, and I kind of just like,
So you guys never discussed it really.
no,
Mm.
there's a part in the book where I finally do confront my mom,
Mhm.
and I was just kind of like, let's stop playing this charade. All I need is you to just like tell me that like like that you did these things and you're sorry.
Mhm.
Like, cuz we just never talked about them. I remember once in therapy, they tried calling my mom on speaker, and she hung up when like she realized what we were going to talk about. So she was just living in, she didn't want to face what she did. And she's
Right.
an alcoholic as well.
Ah. Okay. Well.
Yeah. Yeah, so and so it's hard, and it's just like there's just so many things. Like I could spend like 4 days talking about all the bad things that
Yeah.
she's done, and it's just because she doesn't want to seek help. I just know, and I know that's the person she'll always be.
Mhm.
So there's no point of me keep doing this like yo-yo back and forth, like trying, like I just keep wishing that she'll change and
Mhm.
love her kids, but it's not
Yeah.
gonna happen. So I just know, and I know like how like she's such a violent, abusive person that I could never. That's what I think of when I like start to like be like, well, maybe I could talk to her again.
Yeah.
I think about my daughter. Like I don't want her raised how I was in like this violent household and like
Right.
scared.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna put my daughter through that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's what makes it easy to like just cut the tie because she was never like a mother anyway. So it's just like this person who birthed me that's supposed to be the mom. She never was, and I just kept holding on to the fact maybe she'll one day she'll
Yeah.
care.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good thing about getting older is that you get to choose your family.
Yeah.
It's like your husband, and you get to
Yeah.
make your own.
Yeah, it's so
And
nice having my own little family now.
Yeah. So what was the hardest thing for you to write about in the book? Was it your relationship with your mom, or was there something else?
I don't know. Like my abortion that I wrote about was really
Yeah, that
hard.
was rough.
But it's so funny because like I hear girls so many times in porn
Hmm.
just like talk about them like they're no big deal.
Yeah, believe me, I shot a girl once who was she
They're
did
proud.
that.
They're like haha about them, you know.
Yeah.
And to me, it wasn't like that. It wasn't just like oh abortion joke or like it's just another abort. Like to me, that was like such a traumatic thing. Like I don't know if it's because I've always wanted a baby too. Like
Mhm.
I've always waited. I couldn't wait to be a mom one day. I mean, obviously, I wasn't in a position then. I was like broke. I was doing drugs and alcohol.
Sounds
and-
like you weren't with the right person either.
No, no. Like I was not in a position to have a baby, but I was just so angry that I had to do that, and like I know a lot of people just like take it really lightly, but that was a really hard thing for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
writing that was hard, and definitely like the cutting ties with my mother was hard too, and then my abusive relationship, the one before my now husband,
Right.
that was hard to relive too.
Yeah. Now, one of the, like the crazy stories in there that like really blew my mind was so you were camming first, and you were camming while you were living with your father.
Yeah, I was still in high school.
Right. And you were underage.
Yes, I was 17,
Yeah.
bad girl.
Yeah, it's nuts. Well, I mean, you know.
I was a hustler.
Yeah. So, and you were getting like money from guys, and they were like PayPaling you money, and they knew you were underage, right?
No, I told them I was 18.
Okay, so they didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't people who were like fetishizing about like
No, I
being with
said I
someone
was
who's
18.
underage. Okay. And then one of your fans tracked your IP address
Yeah.
and then called your dad?
Yeah, that was so embarrassing.
So,
to
yeah,
have my
can you
dad-
tell us about that story? Because that is like, whoo, I was like, oh my God.
So bad. So I would go on like those free campsites like Camp 4 or whatever. You go on there and you can just like stream live and they don't have to check your age. Like if you go to my free cams, you can't do it without like an ID check and everything.
Right, because you're not allowed to get naked on the free side. Is that correct?
I think you can, but you're not making money off of it. It's just like you get on there for free.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I would go in there and then like lure the guys to my MSN Messenger, like back when like Messenger was like super cool.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
I remember.
So I would tell the guys that like I'll get naked for you if you add me here, and then once they were there, I'd be like, okay, just send me this much on PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're already like wanting it, so they send me the money, and then I just do like a one-on-one cam show, and then I just would keep doing those and those. But while I was on the free site, that's where I think the guy must have gotten it from, because then by the time my dad walked in on me, I was doing a one-on-one cam show. So like I hate reliving this.
Oh.
And like I'm doing my solo show with my toy, and we live in a really old house, so
Yeah.
there's no locks. Like the house was made like hundreds of years ago. It's old.
Yeah.
And he just bust through and was just like, get in my room. And I remember like flailing myself off the bed and like going on the floor and just like trying to cover myself, like so humiliated.
Oh my God.
And I did not want to have to go talk to him. And then he like repeated, the guy said, I'm watching your daughter fuck herself. And I was just like, it was so awkward. And like, that's about the time where I was like, I want to move.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll do anything to move right now. I don't want to look at you in the eye.
Yeah. How did he handle that?
I mean, at this point, there was so many sexual things he already dealt with. Like, I was 7 the first time that he got like a phone call from someone's parents being like, your daughter had sex with this girl, and my daughter was there and got scared. So like, I remember he'd sat me down. He's like, you will get arrested if you ever do that again. So
Yeah.
I was so scared, but I was getting myself in a lot of sexual trouble.
Right.
My whole life. So,
Right.
I mean, I feel like honestly, like he kind of wasn't shocked.
Right.
Like it wasn't like, what do you do? Like it was just kind of like, you can't be doing this type of stuff, and like they could show up at my house now. Like, so my dad was really worried because my 2 sisters still live there too, and he started worrying about everyone's safety if they tracked the number. Like,
Yeah.
do they have the address? Is someone
Yeah.
creepy gonna show up? And
Yeah.
that definitely really scared me too.
Yeah. It's crazy that like somebody like got off on calling your father.
Yeah. And I'm it's so bad. The poor guy that paid for that show too. I just like slammed my laptop shut. I was so humiliated.
Did you ever talk to him again? The guy
no,
was watching your
no,
show?
no. All the guys were like one-time dudes.
Right, right. Wow. Um, okay, so you moved to Florida. So let's talk a little bit about your descent into addiction. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So since I started drinking when in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and every time I would, it was from the very first time I blacked out. Like I didn't just like have a drink. Like my friends would be making like little mixed drinks, and like sipping on a drink, and I'm just chugging out the bottle of vodka. That's all I wanted to do, and I just didn't stop until I was blacked out and didn't remember anything. And then when I moved to Florida, I start working in a strip club, and there's drugs. It's a bigger city. And then the second I snorted coke for the first time, I was just in love.
Yeah.
And then from there,
That stuff makes you feel like superhuman.
yeah.
It helps you drink longer too.
I was gonna say, whenever I get super sloppy, you do some lines, and
Yeah.
I would use them to go back and forth, so I could just last forever.
Yeah, help with the blackout.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I was just in love, and that was just what my life like revolved around for so
Mm-hmm.
many years. Through while I lived in Florida, and then when I came out here, that was the first thing I wanted. When I came out here, I was like, okay, how am I gonna get it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just ask every girl,
Mm-hmm.
and I was doing it very heavily out here, and I was having a lot of like health scares, especially when I was living in Florida, and just like I wanted to stop for so many years, but I like couldn't for some reason. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would have like a month that I would like stop drinking, and then I would relapse, and it was just really frustrating for years and years that going on.
Were you trying to get sober on your own?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I did get sober 4.5 years ago, it was on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I never went to a rehab or a 12-step program.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just started going to 12-step programs maybe like 2 months ago,
Mm.
because I've had like 4.5 years. I have for about 4.5 years now, and I don't have any sober friends,
Mm-hmm.
and I started being like, am I getting too comfortable? Because like I can do it on my own. Like I did do it on my own that amount of time, but I just started getting like this worried feeling that I needed like a support team.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have like a sponsor, and I go to a bunch of meetings, and that I wish I would have done that from the start. It would have
Yeah.
been so much easier.
It's nice to find a community of people who understand what it's
Right.
like, because it's really difficult to explain addiction and alcoholism to somebody who doesn't have it, because it just
Exactly.
seems like, well, why can't you just stop? Which like seems rational thing to
Yeah.
ask, right? Like,
Mhm.
why can't I just stop? But it's a lot more complicated than that.
Right. And
I was never able to stop on my own. I tried. It was fucking impossible for me. So like kudos to you for actually being able to do that, for a
Yeah.
period of time. 'Cause
Yeah.
I could not.
And people at the meeting even ask me that they'll be after the meeting, they'll be like, "How did you do it on your own?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like now
Yeah.
looking back, I don't know. I just like really wanted it this time, and I wanted to be able to be healthy and have a family, and the gym really helped me because that
Mm.
was like my new addiction. So
Yeah.
I kind of replaced my addiction. I have such
I
an
was-
addictive
Oh,
personality.
girl, I totally understand. I am the same way. I actually find now that my addiction, I was going to ask you how your addiction manifests itself now,
Mhm.
because it's always there.
Oh,
It's
for
something that we're
sure.
always fighting. And for me right now, it's totally food, and especially sugar.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I found I was talking to my sponsor the other day. I found that like I've started. So one thing I used to always do was I always used to drink in the bath, right? Because like
Okay.
that was a place that I could go and be like private. It was my me time. I had an excuse to lock the door.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And also too, like having, it sounds sophisticated, like having a glass of
Yeah.
wine and a bubble bath and a
Totally.
book. Look, like that
Yeah.
sounds so sophisticated, right? So
Yeah.
in my head, that's what I'm thinking I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm going in there and I'm hiding the bottle of vodka under the sink, and I'm doing fucking pounding vodka in the bathtub, and then I'm like passing out in the bath and almost pulling a Whitney Houston, and my boyfriend's breaking
Damn.
down the door and like having
Oh
to
my
pull me out.
God.
Happened to me twice.
Oh.
So yeah, so the bathtub is like, it's almost kind of like a trigger place for me, I
Right.
think. And I still take baths because like it's a good way for me to unwind. I still really enjoy like reading a book and like disconnecting. But I found recently that I've started like hiding. I don't mean to, but like I'll take like little like sugar snacks in there and I find myself hiding it.
Did you see what I posted on Twitter last week?
Uh-uh.
I posted a picture of me in the bath eating pie.
I ate pie in the bath the other day.
I was eating apple pie in the bath by myself, and I posted a picture on Twitter of it.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I totally do it. And like I'll find like if my boyfriend like is coming upstairs, I find like just not even thinking about it, me like
Being sneaky.
hiding it. And it's just
Mhm.
like it's so crazy how it's like manifesting itself in that way. And then I find myself, even if I'm not hungry, like it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah, I can feel that because of like my eating disorders. Like I would obsess of food like that. So I kind of went through
Mhm.
that stuff too. It's funny. I think my addiction now is kind of like Fan Centro,
Hmm.
which is a good because I'm making so much
Yeah, I
money.
was gonna say that's actually kind of a good addiction to have
Yeah,
because
I like refresh the page. Where am I on like the little like top? Am I in the top 10
yeah.
right now? And then
Yeah.
like how I'm refreshing the money, and I have like a goal every day if I want to hit this much amount of money, and like I want to hit this much for the whole month, and
Mhm.
like I try to hit those numbers. So this is like way better than doing drugs, but
Yeah. But it's still there.
obsessive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still that obsessive behavior. And it's
Mhm.
like we'll never conquer it. We just have to try to channel it into
Yeah.
more healthy alternatives and try to manage it the best we can.
I think I totally do like my house being clean as hell too. That's one thing
Mm,
I do. Like my house has to be super clean.
yeah.
That's like another way I think I take out like my weird little
Yeah.
things that I have to do.
I clean too, but I'm not like as clean as I would like to be. Also too, it doesn't help when my boyfriend leaves everything fucking
Oh,
everywhere.
I know that. I know that feeling.
But I mean, my house is clean, but like it's not, you know. But sometimes, like, especially if I'm stressed out, I'll like look around my house and I'll be like, "This place is a fucking mess," and I'll
exactly
just
what
like
I say.
flip out, you know,
Same
and be
exact.
so angry.
Same. I'm glad I'm not alone.
No,
I
I
do
get
that
like
too.
really mad, and then I start like angrily picking up stuff, or I'll like angrily vacuum,
Yeah.
and my boyfriend's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go hide."
Same,
'Cause
same.
she's going crazy.
I know my husband's like, if it's not like a museum, you're all mad. I'm like, yes, I want it clean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, all we can do is try to manage our demons. They'll never
Right?
go away. So let's talk about your okay, so you had a suicide attempt
Yeah.
too. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because that's been something that's been kind of plaguing our industry
Definitely.
lately.
And I actually just wrote an article. It was my very first article I ever wrote for XBiz, and it
Oh
was
wow.
on mental health
Mhm.
and just kind of how I deal with like the two lives that you have in porn.
Mm.
So I mean, I didn't really have two lives until I have a baby now, but now I'm like two different people. So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to separate them. So I had to get like two phones, like so one's the Amber phone, one's the Carmen phone, and like
Mm.
I really had to separate my lives. But the suicide attempt happened when I was a dancer in Florida,
Mhm.
and it was just I've always been suicidal since I was like 14,
Mm.
14 until I was probably like 25, and it just one like I was just doing so many drugs, and then I started I started doing pills, which I usually don't do.
Mhm.
So I was doing that, and then I was working at the strip club one night, and I just decided that I was going to leave and kill myself.
Mhm.
And I went to Walgreens. I did this at Walgreens in the parking lot, and like outside the garbage, I was like just started eating all the sleeping pills. And the guy that drove me there, who was my ex, just like I started foaming in the mouth and like shaking. And then I don't remember being rushed to the ER,
Yeah.
but I woke up there and well, I was 5150'd. So
Mhm.
I was held, and I woke up, and I had no memory of like I had really had to take a while. Like it was so foggy for me, like what happened. But I was in a room with literally nothing on the walls. I had my nipples pierced at the time, and like my lip pierced, and all my piercings were removed. And I was like in this gown, and there was just like a glass door, and I was just like beating on the door trying to like and I was just stuck in there. Like
Yeah.
the cop was like, "You can't leave."
Yeah.
And yeah, they told me that when they got me like conscious, that I was just saying stuff like they were asking like, "Why did you do this?" And I was just like, "My mom doesn't love me. My mom doesn't love me."
Wow.
And I have no memory of that, but when they told me that, I was like, that's when I was like, "Damn, this really is affecting me." Like, like my therapist I started going to therapy when I was 6
Mhm.
because of her, and they always were kind of like saying like, "You just gotta." Trying to help me like mend the mommy issues.
Yeah.
And I just never could, and I feel like I just kind of sat in that for so long. But I was just at a place like there was nothing really big that just made me do that. It was just kind of like I feel like this is gonna be my life forever. I'm not happy. I don't see my life ever going anywhere. I was like so sick and tired of being addicted to drugs too. Like,
To that feeling of hopelessness.
yeah,
And
it's just
never being able to get out of that.
exhausting.
I know.
It's just so exhausting. Like the panic I would feel every time the bag would run out, and just like I was homeless for a while and selling drugs with my ex, and we were just like living in people's houses that were out of town, and like it was just not. It was like fun at first, and then it was just not fun at all anymore. And like I didn't want to be doing coke, but I was obsessed with it, and I just felt like it was this never-ending cycle, and I just felt like I would never be happy, so I just decided to do it. But it wasn't like it was like some new thought.
Mm-hmm.
It was always like I never cared if I died type of deal.
Right. Right.
So in that moment I was just like, well, fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I after that I was like, okay, I really need to get sober, and it lasted like a week maybe. And then I was back to doing drugs again. So it just, and that's like one thing that was really hard is nothing, like every time I thought I hit rock bottom, I just didn't. Like I
Yeah.
did, it wasn't enough. Nothing was enough. Like 2 weeks before my suicide attempt, I had two back-to-back seizures after like a huge drug binge, and was still doing drugs next day. I was like, oh, must have been because I snorted Molly too. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't the cocaine. Like,
Right.
it wasn't
Right.
that. So it's just like no matter how low I hit, it wouldn't be enough, and it was so frustrating that I was like giving up on myself like all these years.
Yeah. They say you hit your bottom when you stop digging.
Mm, that could be
You know? It's
uh-huh.
like, I mean, you can always go lower.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's really hard. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, now like that's actually how I met my best friend now. Like when I see girls on Twitter that are, cuz Twitter is such an outlet for these girls to say whatever they want. So whenever I see someone suicidal now, like I'm just trying to like swoop in and be like,
Yeah.
I promise you, like I was like I felt like life would never get better. Like
Yeah.
when I'm at the end of my book, I'm kind of like looking back and kind of like I wish I could tell myself then like how I'm gonna be a mom one day. I'm gonna be a mom and a wife. Like no way. Like
Yeah.
I never thought anyone would want to marry me. Like
Yeah.
I just figured it wasn't in the cards for me.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell everyone. Like they'll be like, oh, I don't. No one loves me. This like you can change your life
Mm-hmm.
if you like are really committed. You can change your whole life around. I feel like I got to live two lives. Like
Yeah.
that the person in that book like is not me.
Right.
It's just two different lives, and it almost feels like that's just like a made up story. It's insane to me that that really happened.
Yeah. I know.
It's so crazy.
I know exactly what you mean. What was interesting for me was because, I got sober in 2008. I was sober for 7 years, and then I
Right,
relapsed, and then I just
right.
got a year. And like the frustrating thing, it was almost more frustrating for me to trying to get sober again after having been sober for so long, was because like I knew what was in the other side. Like I knew how much better my life could be. I
Right.
knew that I could be happy. I knew that I could live a sober life and feel like fulfilled and like have a good time and laugh again, and you know what I mean? Before I got sober the first time, I couldn't imagine what life without alcohol was like. I was like, that can't possibly be fun. So
right, you think you're gonna be boring.
boring, and like, how can I travel to Italy without having wine? How
Yeah.
can I like get married and not like just have champagne at my for the
Mhm.
toast, like all that kind of stuff. So it was almost like more frustrating trying to get sober again, knowing how much better life was, and like still not being able to get there and not
Right.
being able to break the cycle. That was like intensely frustrating.
It's so scary to me. That's kind of why I sought out the AA program and the
Mhm.
CA program, is because I hear these girls all the time. Like a performer, I think she had like however many years, and she just relapsed without even like she said she didn't really even think about it. She just
Mhm.
had a needle in her arm,
Mhm.
and like
It
you
creeps up on you.
yeah, and you say like you had 7 years. That started terrifying me. I'm like, my husband's like, that won't happen to you. I'm like, how do you know? Like we're
Yeah.
all addicts.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to just one day just slip up. Like so I started getting really worried about it, and that's why I sought out the program.
Mhm.
And like I'm just gonna stay in this program, and as long as I have a sponsor and everything, like hopefully I'll be good. But it's scary. Like I don't want to ever be like that again.
Yeah, yeah, it is scary. And what's scary is that even though you don't want it, it can still like come back and
Right.
fucking bite you in the ass.
Right.
It's fucking bizarre, and it can come out of nowhere. Mine was an accident that
What?
ended up being like that.
Did
triggered
you
me.
accidentally drink someone's drink?
No. So what happened was I was in Costa Rica, and I went to this. I was on a job. I was shooting for Twisties.
Oh.
And we had rented out these locations like from this like really wealthy like oil baron from Texas who moved there and like bought all these amazing houses. And so anyways, through some connections, I found him and he rented us out these like amazing houses to shoot in. And as like a thank you, he actually like organized a little party, and I brought like some of the models that were I was working with to the party, and that kind of thing, and like a little meet and greet,
Right.
very innocent. And he had it catered. Like I said, he had a fuck ton of money, and there was this dessert table, and again, like it was professionally catered. Like these people were wearing like white suits,
Yeah.
and, you know what I mean, like they do, and I had this like little dessert that I remember at the time kind of tasted like weed to me.
Oh,
And I was like, this
no.
sort of tastes like weed. And my makeup artist, everyone that I went with was a huge stoner.
Right.
So like, no, not everybody even had the dessert that I had. But my makeup artist tried it. She's like, I don't know, I don't taste anything. And she was a big stoner. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I must be crazy. And then I felt it, and it wasn't all that strong.
Right.
But for somebody who hadn't had anything in their system for 7
Mhm.
years, it definitely got me. So we went back to the hotel. I called my sober sister and I was like, I accidentally ate an edible. I didn't know, like, and she was like, it's okay. You didn't lose your time. Like, when you come back, just, we'll go to meetings. Everything will be fine. I'm
Right.
like, okay. And I hung up, and I got the case of the fuck it's, because I didn't have, like, I wasn't really going to
Yeah.
meetings anymore because I thought, like, I got this. I don't really
Mhm.
need this program anymore. It's like such a, I gotta
Mhm.
fucking go to meetings, sit there for an hour. Sometimes people are really boring.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go. I got other things to do. So, so I didn't have like a strong program, and I hung up the phone with her, and I went and smoked a joint because weed out everywhere. Because like I said, everyone there was a
Right.
stoner. Nobody knew. Everyone had fallen asleep, so I just like found it, and because I got a case of the fuck it's, I was like, well, it's already in my system.
That's
I may
exactly
as
how I
well,
am.
right?
Mhm.
So then, now after that, I didn't touch anything for months. Like
Okay.
months went by, and I didn't tell anybody either, right? Because I was like, if I don't
Right.
tell anyone, then it's kind of like my secret, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm of the firm belief that the universe likes to put things in front of you until like you deal with that. So like
Yeah.
whatever issues, problems that you have, character defects. And I was shooting, and I know we've never shot together, but normally when I work with girls, I give them a robe to put on in the makeup chair, and then I wash them after each shoot. So I was washing robes from a shoot, and I reached into the pocket, make sure there's something in there, and there was a huge bag of weed in there that a model had left in there.
Oh my
And I remember like pulling out that bag of weed and looking at it, and literally the first thought in my head was, God wants you to smoke this.
Not can you turn it down? Like,
No.
God must want me to be a
Like,
stoner.
literally, like, and pot was my other thing. Like, I
Right.
loved weed, loved vodka, loved weed, loved vodka.
Mhm.
And so I smoked it, and then I found other excuses to keep smoking, and then eventually weed wasn't enough, and I was back to drinking, and it was like, so it was like a weird
Yeah.
accident that slowly snowballed into me back to drinking
Right.
again. So it was like, that's what I say when like I say it's fucking tricky.
Right.
Like, it was a weird, slow relapse.
It's like when people think like, oh, like people will be like, I can just smoke weed.
Yeah.
Like, or people will be like, I'll just drink wine now.
Yeah.
Like, it just never happens like that. Your addiction just kicks in at some point.
Right, exactly. And for me, what I realized was it wasn't even so much that, it wasn't what I was consuming. It was the desire to get out of my head and the desire to not be in reality. And the
Yeah.
desire to, that's all it was. It doesn't matter what the substance is. That's why, like, alcoholics, drug addicts, like, we're all at our core, we're the same. We use substances to, like, check out.
Yeah, I love that. I could just not have to deal with whatever I'm dealing with. I'm just
Right.
gonna black out now, and I don't
Right.
have to think about it.
I just don't want to be in reality. I don't want to deal with my emotions. I don't want to deal with these stresses. I'm going to take this and I'm going to have it transport me to another place. And I'm going to continue to do that on a consistent basis every fucking day, all the time, because I don't ever want to have to deal with this stuff.
Yeah, that's what I would do too.
And on that note, we're going to take a break and have a word from our sponsors.
Perfect.
And we'll be right back. Sorry, I let that go a little long.
Okay.
You can't get me fucking talking about addiction.
I
will
know,
never
I
shut
know.
up. It's
Is
so
it not
annoying.
is it not triggering to have alcohol over there?
No.
Really? See, alcohol's not triggering to me, but if like there was like a line of Coke sitting there,
Yeah.
I would be like,
Yeah.
like it would
I mean,
definitely.
I don't know. Maybe if I sat not with my back to it, maybe. But no, not really. I mean, my boyfriend drinks. Like he
Really?
won't have hard alcohol in the house, but he has beer in the house, and like I'm okay with
Oh.
that. Like because if I'm gonna relapse, it ain't gonna
It'd
be
be a
beer.
beer, right?
It
Yeah.
ain't gonna be beer.
Yeah, totally.
And as they say, you have to live in like the real world. So no. What does sometimes maybe trigger me a little bit? You know what triggers me is when I see people drinking or I see things the way that I used to drink. So when I see those little airplane bottles of vodka, that's kind of a
Mhm.
trigger for me because that's what I used to drink because I used to hide those in my purse and in my car and in my house and everywhere.
Yeah.
So when I see those, that gets me.
Yeah.
Like, did you watch that show? Fuck, with Amy Adams on HBO, like Sharp Edges or
No.
Sharp Objects.
No.
So she's an alcoholic and she drinks vodka. And there's this scene of her in the fucking bathtub and she has these little bottles of alcohol. And they're even like different kinds of vodka. So you can see like she didn't really plan it. She just picked up stuff along the way.
Right.
And she like lines them on the bathtub. And that was like, I was like, oh my God, that's me. And her favorite band is Led Zeppelin, and all she does is play Led Zeppelin, and I love Led Zeppelin.
So it's like,
I was
that
like, this
me.
fucking person is me. Like,
Yeah.
that tripped me out.
Yeah, like the only thing that triggers me is like if like on a TV show or something, someone like snorts a line of Coke. All of a sudden, I'll be like, oh, I miss that burn. I want to feel that feeling. Like I loved snorting things for some reason. Like I loved that feeling. So that's the only thing that's triggering. But like I'm at AVN and I'm fine when all these girls are drinking because I kind of just drank to like balance out the Coke. Like I love drinking, but as soon as I found Coke, that was my number one.
Yeah.
So then it was like alcohol was secondary, and I just kind of bounced them back and forth. But my real addiction, like my number one, is like cocaine.
Yeah, I did Coke for sure, but it wasn't really like my thing. I didn't like how it took away the feeling of being drunk. I like the downer of alcoholism, and I just Coke made me, I don't know, it made me feel like I had to poop all the time.
Yeah, I loved it.
Anyways, okay, he's
I
like,
thought we were in it already.
Oh, we on there?
well, I didn't like welcome us back officially.
That's true.
Okay, now I'm gonna welcome us back. Okay, we're back. During the break, we started talking about triggers, and Ernie just thought we were just going for it, but I have to like officially announce that we're talking about this again. Okay, so that was a lot of talk about alcohol and drugs. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about you getting into porn.
Yeah.
So how did that go? Your first shoot was with Joanna Angel, right?
Yes.
That's a pretty cool experience.
Yes, I love Joanna. So I was emailing her. I think we went back and forth like 3 separate times. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna come, and then I would just get so scared, and I'd be like, no, I'm not coming anymore. And we did that a couple times, and then finally I was like, okay, for real, I think I'm ready. Let's do this. And so I flew out here, and I was just like instantly in love with porn. Like everything about it, I just loved. I love everything. And when I shot my first scene, like I was hooked. And I remember like I was so nervous because Joanna actually watched my first scene, so she wasn't shooting it or anything, but she was sitting back on a table. I remember she was just sitting at a table watching. And
that must have been intimidating.
I know. I was like, oh my God, now I have to do good. And I remember like them telling me it's gonna be a half-hour scene. And I was like, half hour? Because, you know, in real life, like, my sex was, like, maybe, like, 5 drunken minutes of sex or something. So I'm like, what do I do for that amount of time? Like, I don't know, like, the porn positions or anything. So when we started.
Who were you working with?
Danny Wilds, which he's out now, but that was the
I
remember
him.
Yeah, so he was super cool.
He was good.
Yeah, and I just was like shaking. Like it was I've never shaken like that in my life. Like through the tease, like I was just like my hands are shaking. But then as soon as like his dick went in my mouth, I was like, game on. Like that's what happens
it was
every
like the
time.
Key in the lock.
Yes. Every shoot, like if I'm ever nervous, like as soon as I start blowjob, I'm like, oh, I'm a bad bitch. I got this shit. Like I'm like my nerves go away. So I like rocked my first shoot, and Joanna was like, are you sure this is like your first shoot? And I was like, yes, I love it. And like from then I was just like, oh, I totally need to get an agent, come out here.
Yeah.
So then I was like hooked right away. I was like, this is made for me.
Can we talk about the best line in the book?
Oh God.
Fuck, let me find it. Hold on. Is it here? Oh yeah, here we go. Um, this is my favorite line. Here we go. Okay, and actually, this is directly linked to Joanna Angels, what she said. Are you sure this is your first time shooting? Joanna asked me. I knew I was going to love doing porn, but I had no idea I would be such a natural at it. This is the line. I grabbed a baby wipe like I had seen the other girls do yesterday and wiped the cum off my face, but there was no wiping off the smile.
Yeah.
I thought that was so
I
great.
thought it was gonna be the line where I was like, well, some people are good at being a doctor, some people are good at being a whore. So
No, I love like you couldn't wipe. I thought that was genius.
thank you.
Very funny.
No, I put a lot into that book. Like it was really nice to read and like writing it because on social media, obviously, like we're very open as like performers.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have a strong female following that's like sober.
Yeah, that's
Like
great.
surprisingly like trying to be sober. So
It's actually cool when you talk about like being like all that stuff on social media. Like when I talked about getting a year, like so many people who wrote back to me,
right.
and people also who privately contacted me about either being sober or attempting to get there. You forget like it affects
It's
so
a huge
many people.
issue. It's
Yeah,
a
it's
huge
big
issue, and it's like not a sexy thing to talk about.
Right.
So like as porn stars, you don't really want to say that, but I've been super open about it like this entire time.
Yeah.
But since this book came out, I've had people like writing, they're like, "Oh, I just went to my first meeting and I'm actually going to get sober because of you." And it's just like it's so cool that and that's what makes me know like, okay, like it was hard to go through everything I did, but I'm happy
Mm-hmm.
because now people are literally reading my book and they're saying they're going to get sober. Like that's insane to me.
Because
Like
if you can just change one person's life, that's all you need.
yes, that's all I wanted. I was like,
And
this
getting
will
sober,
help.
if you're like a true alcoholic or drug addict, getting sober fucking changes your life.
Yeah,
It's everything.
for sure. Like it's like a whole nother life. Like everything is different.
Yes.
But it's just crazy now that this is out and just seeing the response from people. It's just
You must be really proud.
yeah, my whole life I was always like the bad girl. Like no one wanted their parents were like stay away from her.
Yeah.
I was always the bad influence. I was like the worst out of like all of like the strippers. Like I was the worst one like with addiction wise and like drinking and how I acted. And never in my life did I think I would inspire someone to be anything positive.
Yeah.
Like ever.
Yeah.
So this is just like it's super cool. As much as I love porn, it's cool that I have something I did that's not with my body. If that makes sense. Like
Oh, totally.
I wrote it. Like even though I love doing porn, like it is cool. Like okay, I can do something else too.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was a good feeling.
Yeah, because I think also too, like the world sees porn stars as being very one dimensional.
Right.
Because that's all they equate you with. You know, like, oh, you're a porn star, you have sex for a living, you are this kind of person, and that's all you can do. And you chose that career because you have no other skills. You have no other opportunities. That's like the mentality of so many people. So I totally understand what you mean when you say like it's really great to be recognized for something else.
Yeah.
To show that you are a multifaceted, multidimensional person.
Yeah, and it's like if I ever mention, I really try to keep my personal and my like Carmen life completely separate. So like if you went on my personal social media, it's all about my daughter. Like that's
Yeah.
all I talk about, but I don't put a word about it on Twitter because people are creepy.
Yeah.
And like anytime I post anything like that, like even talk, I will never post a picture of her on there. But like if I talk about her, there's just terrible comments like, people think that just because you do that, you can't be married, you can't have kids, like you have to just all you want is sex all the time.
Yeah.
And like it's our job, and like I am a sexual person, but it's crazy how so many people watch porn. It's like the biggest demand. Like of I remember seeing this thing of like how long it took all these different sites to get like 500 million views or something, and it was like YouTube and Pornhub would like took so quick to get all those views. You know, everyone watches porn, most people, but everyone wants to talk shit about porn stars, the people that they're jacking off to every single day, but they want to talk down to us when they're the one watching us.
Yeah.
So it's so frustrating, and they just see us as like this fantasy on a computer, and that we don't have another life, and that's like I'm like already itching to write another book, and I kind of want to like in some way get across the point of that porn stars are people, and maybe like dig into like how like the double life that I have to live, and like the stigma that it's so hard as like a performer when someone like you're getting your nails done, oh, what do you do for work? Like it's just because people are gonna look down upon it. So it's frustrating when even though I'm not ashamed of what I do, it's hard to tell people what I do because I know they're gonna judge me.
Well, the thing is, I think that a lot of people who look down on porn stars and who have that idea about the porn industry are people who generally have hang-ups about their own sexuality and are ashamed of masturbation, are ashamed of sex.
Right.
And so they project that feeling onto you. You know, like so many people have an unhealthy relationship with sex because, I mean, so many reasons: lack of sexual education
Yeah.
and just the way that society in general is so fearful of sexuality, especially female sexuality.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
you never really see people go, you know, like after, you know, saving male porn stars, right?
Totally
It's
true.
always about women.
And like this, I bet the same guys who are like looking down on these girls and saying that are like wishing they were these male porn stars. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Because
always like
it's
that.
like cool, and it just goes back to like the old sexist like double standard. You know, if you're a guy, if you fuck a bunch of broads, like you're a stud. If you're a girl and you fuck a bunch of guys, you're a slut.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just like it, and it's just it's projected in the way that people see porn and see sex. But, you know, I mean, I think people like you writing these kinds of books and, you know, showing who you are and hopefully things like this podcast and stuff. I mean, we're here to change people's mind
Yeah.
about how they see porn and about how they see sex. And I feel like I see changes. It's going to take a while. We have to, you know, a couple generations, got
I
to
like
breed the stigma out of
Yeah.
people, you know?
Yeah, I like that like mental health in our industry is being like a thing now. I like
Yes.
that, and I feel like that's going to help normalize some things maybe.
I
And
agree.
I feel like my biggest worry is what my daughter obviously will think. That's
Mhm.
like my biggest thing. Like, but
Can I
yeah,
ask you how old she is?
she's 2.5.
Okay, so she's still at an age where like you don't need to have that discussion.
No,
yet.
no, no. She would have no idea what I'm saying.
Right, right, right.
But like eventually, you know, it's gonna have to happen. And I'm just like praying that things are gonna be more normalized. Like so many people do watch porn. Like I feel like it's not really normalized, but I'm
Mhm.
hoping like as the way it seems like how like being gay was even. I feel like even in a
Mhm.
few years, it's just like such normal like people. There's like pride and stuff,
Mhm.
and I see the sexual movement. What is it? The Sex Workers Day, you
Yeah.
know, and whenever I see that, I'm like, oh,
Slut walk.
yeah.
Yeah.
So things like that, I'm just like hoping that sex work is like less looked down upon by
Mhm.
then because we're gonna raise her, me and my husband, to be like sex positive. Like
Mhm.
we're not gonna be like, oh, go have sex. You know, like
Yeah.
we're gonna do it in like a parental way, but I don't want her to be ashamed, and I don't want her to have to hide things from me,
Mhm.
and I'm just hoping that she doesn't judge me for everything. You know, I'm just hoping as long as I'm a good mom that it won't matter.
I think you're going to be fine, and I can tell you from like a little bit of experience. I mean, I know my mom never performed in porn videos or anything, but my parents made porn.
Right.
They did since before I was born, and they raised me and my brother and my sister, you know, with this idea that sex is not shameful. Women's bodies are beautiful. People should, you know, be able to do whatever they want to do, and a very like non-judgmental
I love that.
view. And you know, kids generally see the world the way that their parents do.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, it's like my worldview is very much reflected in how I was raised. I mean, as a kind of counterexample, look at like the way that your mom was. Look how that affected you in the long run. Like the way that you raise your daughter, and if you just love her and just teach her to be a good person, I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I found all these old interviews of my mom back before I was born. And so my mom, I don't know how much you know about her, but so she, you know, produced adult films and she was
Yeah.
a big adult photographer. And she actually started off her career. She was the first female staff photographer at Playboy.
Oh,
So she
I
worked,
didn't know that.
yeah. So she started off at Playboy, and her and my dad were swingers, and they used to like bang everybody.
No.
Oh yeah.
I love
My
that you
mom
know
has
that.
slept with like all kinds of random celebrities.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
at the mansion, like Warren Beatty, Jack Nicholson, Bill Cosby.
No.
Swear to God, of her own volition.
Yeah.
He did not
Right.
rape her. She
That's what I like.
it's
My
her-
brain thought right away.
She it was her decision. But my mom, she slept with. I mean, it was like free love, you know.
Oh my
They went to orgy
God.
parties together. I mean, all that stuff.
That's so cool.
So, so she wrote this book, this very like kind of scandalous tell-all book called Sue's, and about her like time at the Playboy Mansion and just like becoming like, you know, the like first like kind of female you know, pornographer really, like
Oh, I
being
want to read that.
so unusual, especially at the time. And she went on this press tour. and she did this interview for a current affair in Australia. And it's so interesting for me to see this now because, like I said, this was literally like almost exactly a year before I was born. So she got pregnant with me like kind of right after she did this press tour, and I'm the first child. And the interviewer was, obviously this kind of like, he was very manly, and he was clearly like kind of sexist. And he
Yeah.
said to her, he was like, what kind of mother are you going to be? What are you going to teach your children? Like, you've written this scandalous book, and you've slept with all of these people, and you shoot nudes for a living, and you do porn, you shoot porn. My mom, I think, worked for Hustler at the time. And he's like, what are your children going to think?
What'd
Like,
she say?
and she said, my children I'm going to teach my children what any good mother would teach their children. I'm going to teach them about respecting people. I'm going to teach them about like being accountable. I'm going to teach them basically to be good people.
Right.
And she goes, and and another thing that he said was, well, what are your grandchildren going to think? And she goes, my grandkids aren't going to give a damn. She said by then society would have progressed to a point that people won't be so hung up about sex. My grandchildren won't give a shit what their granny did back when she was 20 having lots of fun.
Yeah.
And,
That's
and
so cool.
the way that he was like so accusatory, and the way that my mom defended herself, and just looking at like the world now and how she was so right. She was so
Right. Go
prophetic.
mom.
She was so prophetic at the moment without realizing it, because society has changed so much.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have grandkids. Sorry, Mom. Working on it. But my brother and sister and I, like, we love our parents. I don't care that my mom was a swinger and slept with all these people, and that my parents went to orgy parties, and that she actually shot herself for Playboy and Hustler. That they did porn. I mean, clearly I work in porn, so clearly I don't
Right.
care that she did that.
See, I hope it ends up like that.
Yeah, so, like, I love them. They were great parents to me. I had a great childhood. Like,
Awesome.
absolutely not affected, I don't think, in any negative way by
I
what
feel
my
like that's
parents
so
did for
rare
a living.
nowadays.
My brother and sister, my brother's a lawyer and my sister's a nurse. So, like, I'm the only one who ended up in the adult industry, and we're all, like, besides me and my obvious, like, addiction issues, we're all, like, pretty fucking normal people.
Yeah.
So, my long story short, I think you're gonna be fine.
Yeah. I love her. She's my whole world. So, like, the only thing I worry about is, like, kids being mean, but they're going to be mean regardless.
That's the thing. And
I'll teach her to be a strong ass bitch.
yeah, she's gonna be fine. And I think you're right too. I think perspectives are changing.
Yeah.
I mean, studies have shown that the younger generation is not nearly as caught up and stigmatized against porn as the older generation was. So.
Especially with like cell phones, they're seeing all this stuff. It's so normal, which is like could be good, but it could be bad.
I think that we need to couple the fact with that porn is so accessible to young people with proper sex education, which we're not doing, and that's a legislative thing. But
Yeah, I just want to teach her, like because they don't teach that stuff in school. They kind of just say like, this is how it works.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
So like, I want my daughter, when it is appropriate, like to feel comfortable talking to me about all the stuff that she needs to.
Yeah. You know what just occurred to me, and I don't think it exists, but actually I did think I saw APAC posted something about doing some kind of like, I don't know, seminar or something on it. There should be like a support group for parents who work in porn.
I would love that. Like one of my best friends is a mom now too,
Yeah.
Megan Rain.
Yeah.
So, and like our kids are kind of close in age, but I love that.
Yeah.
I love that
There's a lot of moms in porn, and
see, I never know because no one really, you don't put that out there as like that. So I don't really know them all, but when I do find one out, I'm like, yay, you're a mommy too.
Yeah, I think that'd be like a really positive thing, because I think there's a lot of moms out there who are worried about like how their children are gonna like deal with this and how they're gonna accept it, and I just feel like that would be a really good support group to have.
I would love that. We need to actually make that a thing, because I feel like especially as like your kids grow up, like that's when we're gonna need each other to be like, how are you handling this? You know?
Exactly.
That's why I'm happy like I have Megan as like a friend, so we're both mommies. We're like, we're gonna go through this together.
Yeah.
We'll put our kids together. They'll be best friends, and they'll conquer the world together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's your new project. I just gave it to you.
Right.
I just decided that you're the chairperson. Awesome. You're gonna make it happen.
That'd be super cool, though. It would be.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. So, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, I wanted to. I was so happy.
Of course, and thank you for being so like open about everything, not only just in this interview, but with your book too. I think it's And, I think you have a strong message for people.
Thank you.
And I think it's people like you that, make a difference. Make a difference in this world.
I feel like I am, and it's crazy because I never would have thought that. Like when people say like be the change you want to see in this world, I used to be like, oh bullshit, no one can change anything.
Yeah.
Back in my addict days, and now having this book, it kind of like really has made my world like something like click in my head. I don't know, just like seeing all this feedback come back and my messages, like I can't keep up with all of my emails and messages about my book, and it's just like I couldn't believe that I even got my book published.
I feel like it sounds to me like it's given you like a sense of value that like you maybe
Yeah.
didn't have before, like a really concrete, like something that means something.
Right, like it's cool. Like I love when I like help marriages when they like watch porn together and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But this is like a whole nother thing. Like people potentially could save someone's life, like
Yes.
their health, their everything. So like seeing that just by saying what I went through could help someone like that is like the craziest, like the most amazing feeling that I feel like I could ever feel.
And think that it comes from a place where you were in so much pain.
Right. So it was that's what I say. It all worked out perfect.
Sure did. So can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media and if you have any other websites or anything you want to plug?
Yes. So my Twitter is at Karmen Karma, and Karmen spelled with a K. And my Instagram, when it's not disabled, is at It's Karmen Karma. And then my premium Snapchat, which I am obsessed with, and I'm on it 24/7, is snapkarmen.com. And then my website is itskarmenkarma.com.
And I feel like I just realized that we never mentioned the name of your book.
Oh my
In this
gosh.
whole fucking interview. So her book is Overcome by Karmen Karma, and I assume people can get that on Amazon?
Yeah, if you just search even my name just on Amazon, it should pop up. And it's a #1 bestseller on Audible, Amazon, and what's the other one? Oh, the ebook, the Kindle
I'm
version.
like, oh, okay,
So like
which is
all
Amazon
three,
as well.
yeah. So all three of them all have like the #1 bestseller next to it, and it's like
Oh
the
my God,
craziest
that's
feeling.
so crazy.
I
I actually
know.
didn't know that you did an Audible version of it.
Yeah, that was way harder than writing it.
Oh, because it's you reading it.
Yeah, so like writing it, I didn't
I
have
wish
to
I'd
say it
fucking
out
known
loud.
that. I probably could have actually
Listened to
read
it
more
all.
of it. Read
Yeah,
more of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was super hard because there's just like two strangers behind glass and you just have to say all this stuff out loud. And it's like, sorry, y'all, you're going to have to hear all this.
Yeah, you had to process it like twice in the written word and then the spoken word as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, but it's been super healing.
Yeah, of course.
This whole process is super cool. And I'm just like, now I want to write more. Like, I'm so inspired by the reaction that the public has.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I feel like you have a purpose.
Thank you.
Not that you didn't before, but even more so now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Karmen, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. And then, of course, you guys all know you can follow me at Holly Randall on Instagram and on Twitter. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye. Cool.